This is Design Happy, the podcast where we talk about the human side of home design, remodeling, and new construction. I'm TJ.
And I'm Katie, and today we're talking about what doesn't work when we think about homes as commodities, which,
Hmm.
as I say that, sounds very what an elevated podcast we have.
Yeah.
What an
Yeah.
academic conversation we're having
Look at
today.
us. We're smarts.
We're mm-hmm. Before we put that smarts to the test, though, before we officially started recording, I asked you about the game Pit, and you
Yeah.
said, "Have we played Pit together?" And I said, "Please hold." Because do you not remember, for anybody
Oh,
who
no.
is new to the pod, TJ and I have uh, history, have lore, we um, went to undergrad together, and uh, then lived in Baltimore on the same street, not on the same, yeah, on the same street
Uh-huh.
in
Yeah.
Baltimore. And had many a I feel like we had game nights and we would
Uh-huh.
just walk down to each other's places for
Yeah.
dinner. Ugh,
Oh, no.
sweet times. Yeah.
Sweet.
And one night, um, and this was when Mark and I moved one street over.
Uh-huh.
And I think you and Kat had moved at that point, maybe, or you were about to. You
We
must have
abandoned
moved.
we abandoned you at that point?
You abandoned us in
Yes. Uh-huh.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. And we had a game night. We invited too many people into our small condo to play Pit, which, if folks are unfamiliar, it's a trading floor game. It's a stocks
Yeah.
and what I'm totally blanking on the word for it, but it's a game of
Commodities?
trade.
What do you mean?
Commodities? Yeah.
Yeah, like wheat and corn and
Yes. It sounds incredibly boring. Is super fun.
it's
Like,
great.
is super fun. And we invited you all over to play, and it is the night I learned I Kat is a savage. Like, she looks small and like 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 kind and sweet, and she will rob you without, in the most strategic way possible. I think uh, I think she ruled. I think she it was like, it is the way to determine. And there were a couple people that night that I was like, oh crap, like they are ruthless. Um, I learned I never want to cross them. And I want them on my side. If
Mm.
I, if anything happens and I need to make some bargains, like Kat's my first call. Um,
Mine
she
too.
will be, she will be negotiating the terms of that. Yeah. So you do not remember this. You do
No, I don't. I
oh
mean,
man.
I'm we've played Pet tons, but I don't remember this specific game night.
Yeah. Luckily, you have to have a good relationship with the people you play with, because it does get intense. It gets like, you had wheat the whole time. Why didn't you trade me? Like, ooh, yes,
And
but
you're holding a lot of cards in your hand, and like sometimes like you're trading and trading
yes,
and it's fast paced, and it's like, and somebody's like, you trade one and you look for one, and like at the end you needed this one wheat, and then you all put your cards down, and like one person
oh
had the
my gosh.
wheat buried behind the rye the whole time, and you're just like, what are we even playing the same game? Like, what are you doing?
There are like alliances, and there's
Oh
deception,
my
and it's
gosh.
happening quick. It's not like Survivor, where it happens over a period of weeks and weeks. It's in like a 4-minute span.
Yeah.
It's so quick, and you have to be so fast thinking, and your wife is. and, like, and so that is actually like, when we talk about commodities and trade and the, when all of that, that is what I think of. Pit is like my best reference for that, which probably isn't a good sign, but I don't know. It also makes me fun. So I when you brought up this episode,
Mhm.
I have to say I needed to do a few Google searches. I was
Okay.
like, yeah,
What did you
co-
search?
coffee's a commodity. Your home is not. Great, great, great. Well, I had to start by like, what's the actual definition of a commodity? And that's where I got excited and started nerding out because I thought it
Okay, look,
was,
smarts.
yeah, I my understanding of a commodity was just like it's a product. It's an item. It is an item. But as you may have seen in our outline, it is one, an item that can be specifically distinguished from a service, and that it is often an item that is given value based on how it holds against inflation. Did did you know that? Where where are
Nope.
your smarts? Show me
No.
your smarts.
Never claimed to have any.
Well, I, anyway, I promise I'm just our intro here today. I will let you take it away from here,
No,
but I
no.
think what I got excited about and what I started going down a less helpful for this episode research episode on is really when um since a home became real estate, air quotes for people who aren't seeing us. And when real estate became the smartest investment you can make, um, it taught us to place the highest value of our homes in their um, basically like how they hold up in the market and their future payout rather than our experience of them. Haha. And that is our thesis. Unless it's not. Did I get that totally wrong? is that is that not what we're talking about today?
Oh, boy, it would be hilarious if you did get it totally wrong. Um, for team content, I wish I could say yes, but no, no, you got nailed it.
I
Look at you.
yeah, no, I'm like I'm real here. I got real excited about this, and this is like the theme of our episodes where you'll propose something and I'm like, okay, cool, and then I do like three Google searches, and suddenly I am writing on um New York Times bestseller on the like fungibility. Fungibility. Do you know what that means,
Wow.
TJ?
Let's see, let's break it down. Fun. I know fun.
No.
Um, Gibble. I'm not I'm not sure what gibble is.
Isn't that the part of the turkey that the no?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, yeah, you got it. And then itty is small. Um so the small
We have our
fun
clip.
gobbly
We have
part
our
of
clip.
fungibility. What
The
worked it out?
the fun
Worked
turkey
it
smallness.
out.
The fun. Here's the thing. In you going through that, I've now completely forgotten the definition of fungibility. Could someone look it up? It's like
Oh my
the
god.
ability for it to not be a mushroom. I don't know. The fungibility. Are you looking it
Replaceable
up
by
too?
another identical item.
Yes.
Yeah, interchangeable.
Yeah. Who came prepared today? Me. I
Oh,
did.
yeah.
So anyway, I this goes back to concepts you bring up in Designed Happy the book, which we've talked a little bit about,
Mhm.
where we can get really fixated on return on investment when we are making remodeling decisions or new home decisions. And that can kind of eclipse some other returns. Um, but would you like to walk us into that?
Sure, sure. Um, so for as long as I've been doing this, so about a quarter of a century, which seems ridiculous.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
it's the conversation has always been the same. Like, this is our biggest investment. Houses in this neighborhood sell for X to Y. Our house is currently valued at Z. So X to Y minus Z equals the amount of money that we could spend on this project.
Mhm.
And there's no consideration thought to, what what's the emotional part of it. If you spent that delta plus 20%, could your life be 50% better? Like there's like nobody ever thinks of it that way. It's
Yeah.
just a dollars and cents conversation. And there's in the DC metro area, there's lots of people that have means. And this is a sophisticated remodeling market. And so a lot of people remodel. So I've found myself in situations talking to lots of very wealthy people over the years. So, like, go into their house, and sometimes it's through the garage, or you see the cars, and they have like a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. So, like, they have a
Oh,
half a
just
million
that
dollars in cars in their $4 million house,
in their
and then
porte cochere.
their portico share, yeah,
That's not where you
you
park the
know,
cars. No.
um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they're talking about the investment in the house only in terms of dollars. And everybody can make whatever decision they're comfortable with. But like in these extreme examples, it's like you have the means to do whatever you want. You have the money to just spend 500 grand on cars that like you're never going to get that money back. Like
Mhm.
that's not an investment. Like, why is the money in the house always 100% of the time thought of as I need to get a return on the money, as if it were a commodity? Like, I just bought coffee at whatever 80 cents a pound, and now I need to sell it at 82 cents a pound to make a profit. Like, that's the conversation when it like there could be alignment between your emotional relationship to the house and the amount of money that you want to spend. Maybe there's not, but if we don't have the conversation, we'll never know. And everyone starts with the money. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is I've started to see, like, the more blog posts we write and podcast clips we put out, like, LinkedIn is changing their algorithm for me.
Mhm.
So, like, in like my feed
Same.
is there's like tons of people in there, like writing about or talking about houses. Um, and I'm starting to see more talk about the 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 very things we talk about on this podcast, like the emotional part of it and not just the dollars and cents part of it. So I thought, let's talk about it a little bit more here. So that's how this sort of came about.
I I'm thinking about, comparing this to, like, my other world of, work that I know, which is therapy, and in that way, there's an easy way to say, like, "Oh, yeah, the experience of therapy is, easy to decommodify," because
Mm.
there isn't a lot of physical product, but I'm thinking of building a house or remodeling a house has so much physical product. Like, a house is a physical product. W we've talked about this so much on the podcast already, but I wanna pull, like, the specifics of how how can people take a physical, a, 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 f- a physical, a tangible item and start thinking of it more in terms of the experience of it? Like, what are the ways that you think are most effective for people to start pulling from the like, I don't know, getting out of the drywall and the paint and the finishes and into what their experience and their emotion of it is going to be?
I, one of the best things I've ever seen, to talk about the relationship between stuff and our emotions compared to that stuff. Do you remember the Marie Kondo show on
Hmm.
Netflix?
Yeah.
And like, and like, oh, they were so smart. Like that came out on like January 1st, whatever year it was, right when everyone was making resolutions. I'm gonna
Yeah.
you know, get myself organized. And then the Marie Kondo show came out and like everybody watched it. And she's like a huge, giant international. I think she has like
Hmm.
consultants that work for her now. There's like a whole system. But like she would hold up a shirt, be like, does this spark joy?
Oh my gosh, the amount of
You know?
joy sparking that people were paying attention to. Yeah. But that's like that's the maybe one of the most immediate ways to get there.
Yeah, like how do I feel when I walk into this room?
Yeah.
How would I prefer to feel when I walk into this room? And like there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that, and good and bad. I'll give you a good example. Um, Everyone has a different relationship to their house. And we had clients last year, and it was, if any one of our other clients had this house, they would be like, "Oh man, you know, we got to do a ton of work to that house."
Hmm.
On the outside, just like if you judged a book by its cover, not super impressive. It was a tiny house, and it needed a bunch of work that was done to it. But it was a woman and a man who were dating. They were our clients, and the woman, it was her house,
Mhm.
and she loved that house so much. It was like her pride and joy. And when I heard the backstory, like I understood what the emotional relationship meant to her, because she had been married and her husband at the time got laid off or fired or something. And then she had to figure out how to pay the mortgage on this house. And then she got divorced. So like she, like, you know, pulled up her boots and like, like figured it
Did the
out
work.
and
Yeah.
like made this house work. And for other people, like it would be like, yeah, whatever. But for her, it was like, this is my house. Like there's a real sense of ownership over it.
Yeah.
So like where other people would have come in and be like really quick to change it, she really struggled with the idea of changing it, even though like her boyfriend, they wanted to come in and make it a new thing together. So like
Mm.
there's always so like it you have a relationship to it, and that's why it's so strange for me to like have conversations with clients when all they want to do is talk about money. Because it's like I know there's emotional relationship to this house. I know there is. Like, can we
Yeah.
we'll have the money conversation. We need to. But what's your relationship to this house now, and why did you call? Like like something's wrong with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So like, what are we trying to fix? And then afterwards, we'll talk about money. I don't know
Hmm.
if I answered your question.
Yeah. I think you did. It also brings up that uh, it seems like we can only when we think of emotional ties to a home, that's like limited to our childhood homes. Like that's however we feel about our childhood homes. Um, and then like once you're an adult with a home, whatever that looks like for you, like that's when you have to just think about, the practicality of it. Um, yeah, I no, I think that's it's a I wish can we just pivot this podcast to be one where we just interview people about the stories of their relationships with their homes because that feels so uh good and interesting and like where um I don't know, where the good stuff lies. And I think it's so I think it's so sad and and um ineffective to not have those be a part of the home design process and experience. Like, I'm thinking of it now as like, gosh, how could you even do that? How could you how could you go in and make changes on a place that you as the on the professional end don't know any of the history or story of. It just feels irresponsible, TJ. That's what I'm saying, and I'm getting upset about it. Um, but I think what I'm trying to put a formula to, and maybe there isn't one, is how you do this balance of the return on investment and the return on the emotional investment or the experience or the enjoyment, whatever we're going to name that E as.
Mhm.
So, do you have a formula for me? Is my question.
Hmm. No, but it sounds like we need to create one. I think time, plays a role in that because we're talking about your house isn't a commodity.
Yeah.
Except it might be if, you're selling your house tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? Or if you're flipping houses, right?
So it
And
goes,
but that's
yeah, it goes back to our roast episode of
it
it goes
does. Yeah.
back to uh,
Yeah.
know your time frame.
It all goes back to Yorkshire pudding. Is that what we talked about? That was how we
Yes.
talked about in that episode.
We didn't talk about it in that episode, which is why I'm upset again about, but time. Time
Yes. Yeah.
is a big part of that formula.
I have one other sort of related way to think about this that we haven't talked about yet.
Ooh.
Um, for decades and decades and decades, people talk about health, right? And like the medical profession, like at large, not one, like at large, the medical profession would be like, the food pyramid and exercise and whatever. I mean, there was a time where I remember my grandparents saying, um, "Oh yeah, the doctor told Grandpa to drink a six pack of beer, right?" Like that was the medical profession's advice,
Those were
right?
the days. Take me back. Take me back. Yeah.
um, but the advice changes over time, and at some point the medical profession started realizing how important sleep was.
Mhm.
And they were like, it's not just getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep, but it's getting 7 or 8 hours of quality sleep. And then all of these, like your watch or a ring or whatever, they can measure the quality of your sleep and tell you about it. And if I read a lot about longevity because I have very aggressive longevity goals. So, like, I care very much about what I can do today to change my relationship to age.
Mm.
And I think we're at this tipping point right now where people are starting to realize how much of their life is tied up in the relationship to their house. And it's not just an investment. It's the place where you make most of your memories, and, like, on people sort of get it, but it's not the way they make decisions, And this
Yeah.
tipping point is coming for the decision making part of it, where it's like, you know what? Like, it might not make. Steve was a guest on the episode, and Steve and I are friends. And like in that episode, we made a clip of it. Like I had said, Steve has some sayings that he does all the time.
That you
And
steal.
well, he steals stuff that I say. Um,
Oh. Oh.
I try
Right,
hard
right.
not to, but I'm gonna steal one of Steve's things now, and I give him a hard time. And generally, I dislike when he says this thing. And I tell him to his face, is like, oh man, I roll my eyes when you say that. But this is actually a great place to bring this up. He says it has to make sense and sense. Sense with an S and sense with a C.
Mm.
The people that I talk to, and I think generally at large, the reason we're doing this podcast is focus on the C. It makes dollars and cents. And we're at this tipping point right now where it feels like people are starting to understand that maybe sense with an S might be more important than sense with a C, assuming your time horizon is long enough.
Mm. That's what I'm wondering why we're at this tipping point, which is too big of a question for this podcast maybe, but what it is, why people are opening up to ROE along with ROI. Like, why do you have any opinions on that? Like, is it I don't know. I don't even have
Why?
a joke about it. I'm like, is it that we're yeah, why is it social media? Is it why we
You
are
know, I don't
caring
know.
about
It
this
it
now?
like it could be part of it. It's like all of this content gets produced and everybody's putting videos out and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
We are too. And I do think the more people consume media, the more people try to find a different angle to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking about this stuff this way for a long time.
Been here the
Um,
whole time.
been here since the beginning.
Everybody's just catching up. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I do think the more we talk about not we design happy, we design professionals have conversations with people, the more those conversations evolve.
Mm.
And one little nugget here turns into a bigger nugget down the road, and it sort of snowballs and picks up steam. And then eventually, what's that? There's like that adoption curve.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's like we're at that like crossing the chasm, where it's like the early adopters who bought iPhone 1, like people like us talking about this specific topic when nobody cared. And then after that, there's I don't know what it's called after that, or maybe early adopters is the second thing. It doesn't matter. Um, but at some point, it's, Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point, or I wish I could remember the author's name, Crossing the Chasm, where like the general public starts talking about it. And it's just a snowball. It just takes time. Or it's just LinkedIn's just feeding me stuff in my feed and like,
Or this isn't happening.
yeah,
Or this isn't happening, actually. It's just in your. No, I think what's important from what you just said is that we were here first. We were saying it first.
that's
That
the important part. Yeah.
I think that's it.
If you take nothing away,
Yeah.
everyone else needs to get off our corner.
And there's a little bit of like um counter argument here I'm hearing from myself that's like, yeah, I think maybe the bigger point is um, folks need to get clear on what in their life is a commodity and what is not. And there's a level of choice we have to that as to what we can choose. We're going to say, this is a commodity, and this is where I get my experience, and this is where I emotionally invest, it feels really hard to hold a home to that. It feels really hard to say, um, especially if you are investing in it, especially if you were going through, uh, yeah, I don't know. I just have a hard time imagining taking on a home project um, without being able to bring in emotional investment. Um, and so I think my rebuttal to my counter argument is like, yeah, you can do that to an extent. A home is a very hard thing would be a hard thing to just put in the commodity bucket and say like this is just a product in my life. Um like I have times where I want to do that where I'm like my life is uh, like I want to give energy to the things I'm doing in my life, the things I'm doing outside of my home. I'm going to get my emotional investment. I'm not going to, I'm not going to stress about this room being messy today and let that bring down, my experiences this weekend with friends and family and community and arts and things like that. I think that's a good way to use it and be like, it's just a room today. Um, but in a bigger picture sense, it feels less possible. So I think I just won my own debate.
Well,
That
congratulations to you.
yeah, that wherever you land with it, I would say like it seems helpful to be realistic that there is always going to be an emotional component to your home and that should be considered rather than buried in numbers and math.
Yeah, and I think you asked about, and I didn't have a good answer, but as I'm listening to you and thinking about it, why is the shift happening? And it's, it's tied up with this, like, what's important now piece of it. It's it- as a society, at one point, the only way to really work out was to go to a gym. You
Mhm.
left your house and you went to a gym. And then a whole bunch of people were like,
Those were
what
not the days.
we
Ugh.
we could have a home gym. And then it was everybody left their house and they went to work. And then it was, oh, wait, I can have a home office. And then, COVID, and we were all here, like our
Then it was
house
like you
became,
have to have a home office. It was
yeah. And it became everything. It was school
yeah,
for our kids, and it was work, and it was exercise, and like it was everything.
yeah.
Um, and so maybe that was the why now piece of it is like,
Mhm.
it's just as a society, we're realizing that this can be so much more for us if we choose for it to be.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, or it could just be a commodity. Mm.
I think and as you're talking, I'm thinking about also moving out of mm, on the societal level and in the world we live in today when it feels like when your choice feels limited in the impact you can have. Um, and I'm sure now I want to go down a different research hole on like job markets, and the economy. And when you are feeling like there is little to less that you can do to impact your day to day, to impact and to impact what supports you versus what stresses you out. Um, I wonder if we turn to our homes then and start asking like, "Oh, this thing that I thought just had to be set up the way I was told a home has to be set up. How could this support me better?" Like, how could this, actually have the flow that I need? Again, maybe it is about um, building memories and like the emotional experiences, and maybe it's also about the experience of functionality. Um, and here we are, just you and me and our smarts, trying to figure out trying to figure out what's going on in the world. But I think to all of that, I hope I hope folks can hear um, that it feels like a very special skill set, a very special but needed skill set to, if you are doing anything with your home, even if you're in the dreaming up stage, that you want to be working with someone who acknowledges the ROE along with the ROI, that um and that shouldn't just be the work of the client, like, or the homeowner. That shouldn't just be on you, and it's like not the professional's job to understand that. Um I hope that people can hear that regardless of where they are in considering what they want to do with their homes, that um there actually are, like, there are professionals out there who can help you navigate that. Um there is a really great book I read recently called Design Happy the Book, also, that we talk about, I'm asking you for a formula, and it's like, it's all in the book and now on the site. Like, and so that there are things out there that can help. And this sounds like a salesy closing. I genuinely don't mean it as that. I feel very like I think this is a place where a lot of folks can go, guess there's nothing I can do about that, or like, but I have to just, that's nice. Like, the emotional talk and the uh enjoyment of my home, that's a really nice idea, but when it comes down to it, I have to, like, these decisions are have to be made, like, according to dollar signs. Um, and I just hope people can hear, like, no, like, there is a way to quantify this too. And there are professionals who speak this language. So, reach out. That's the salesy part. Reach out.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I took the
Okay.
I did it all. Is that what is that what, nothing else to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing else to say. I really thought you were gonna have a book recommendation. It's like, I read this great book and I was like, "Oh, edge of my seat. Okay, I'm ready. What?"
I mean it. And I like it, the reason it's not salesy is like, if you're not considering anything with your home, still read it. Like, this is a great eh, it's a great way of framing. Again, I appreciate what it um all these things that feel like you can't quantify them, they're just feelings. Yeah, you can. You can. And
Mhm.
there are probably a ton of tools out there. Um, I haven't found I haven't found any that are um super effective. And I do think, like, the book has great ideas. And what we're putting on the website now is also so helpful. So yeah, regardless of where you are in it, like, I hope people will check that out, because anybody who is coming to this, if we are at this tipping point, if this is important, to have something to do with it, to have something that helps you, like, map it out a little bit better and get to know what it is that matters to you and how that impacts, like, the choices you're going to be making.
Yeah. So look, come for the thoughtful conversation, come for the tools, but most importantly, above all else, come for the excellent definitions of words that I don't actually know the definition to.
That's right.
That's what that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. It's like a game show where there might be rules. There's no host. Everyone's just playing, and uh and the network cut it before it aired. So, yeah, good
What
times.
a great way to end.
Look, I tried. I gave you a great ending and you totally passed. So here we are. Well,
Such is my brand.
yeah. I guess
I've done
we'll
this to you maybe half of our 30
at
episodes.
least there was no Harry Connick Jr. in this one. I appreciate that. And with
Um,
that, thanks everyone for tuning in. Till next time.
we'll see you then.